Good morning, everyone. We're so glad to have you with us. I am Ariel Newby, Staff Assembly President, and I will go ahead and call this meeting to order at 10:03. Again, I'm going to ask all Staff Assembly members to place SA by their name. Our Secretary, Sonia Warden, is taking attendance by you actually being in the meeting, so we're going to skip the physical roll call because we do have quite an agenda today, and I also want to give time for us to have any discussion on the floor regarding the town hall yesterday and the president's town halls last week in case people have questions. So we want to have time for that. Before I get started, I just want to let you know we do have ground rules to make sure that you stay muted. We ask that you use the hand raise feature. So if you hit the participants button, you will see the hand raise feature and you will just click that and wait until or Robin announce your name, and then you can go ahead and unmute. We ask that we're respectful, we're honest, and we do not attack people, but we have questions for clarity if there is a point of contention, which we don't think there will be, but we just want to make sure you know that. And even if you are not necessarily a Staff Assembly member, this is your time to speak and let us know how we can help or if you have questions. In addition, we just want to continue to remember that this is recorded. So if you, for some reason, cannot stay, you will be able to see the link at some point later on during the day or sometime tomorrow to be able to look at this conversation and also share it with your colleagues. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to have an approval of the minutes. All Staff Assembly members were given the minutes from our main meeting along with a few other notes from our retreat. And so at this time, I will go ahead and place a motion on the floor for the adoption of the May minutes.
I'll make a motion.
That was Robin.
Yes.
All right. And do we have a second?
Hi, this is John. I'll second.
Okay. Also, I meant to say, just to make sure you can use the chat. So if all Staff Assembly members at this time will say yes to approving the minutes or nay. If there are any typographical or any typos or anything, just send that to Sonia. We're not going to vote on that. We just want to make sure that there's any content that we need to update. And also please feel free to, of course, use the chat if you have questions. If you do have a question that you want to remain confidential, you can private message myself or Robin Hollenbeck, and we will ask that question. And again, also you can still email us at staffassembly@wm.edu, and we'll be happy to take questions there as well. So I will go ahead and move along to the President's report. Just to give everyone an update, we did have a retreat, and that went pretty well for the Staff Assembly. We did it within 2 hours, which is pretty great considering we wanted to do a whole day. So we did do our SWOT analysis, and we did a couple other things just to sort of think processes and how the Staff Assembly wants to move forward. And we just want to make sure that you are all aware that the Staff Assembly is very engaged with the senior administration at this time. We have been in weekly meetings with the president, the provost, the COO. We've met with our CHRO several times, and we are in conversation during this constantly ever revolving, changing world that we are currently in. And I just want you all to know that and feel comfortable with coming to us with questions to help you navigate some of these waters, because we know there are going to be individual circumstances that may not sort of get answered through all of our FAQs. So feel free to do that. In addition, the Staff Assembly is working really hard to make sure that we maintain good relationships with the other assemblies. We recognize that, you know, our institution is very diverse, and so we just want to make sure that we stay in really good contact with the other assemblies and know what's going on with them, and how we can share in any of the overlapping loads that we do have. I'm trying to think. I think that was it. I'm going to go ahead and move along to our officer reports. I have the treasurer slated. So Sally, if you will go ahead and unmute if you have any updates.
Hi, everyone. I don't have any updates on the finances of the staff assembly. Most budgets for the university have not been set yet. I'm sure that's not any news to anyone. So that's just going to be in a holding pattern for the next few months. The one thing that I've identified to be mission critical for staff assembly is for us to have our general meeting in the fall and have our general meeting in the spring. That's all I have.
Thank you. And just to go back, I know we're sort of a little out of parliamentary procedure, but I just want to make sure that we're moving swiftly to make sure that we have time, but our minutes were approved. So thank you so much. The next item on the agenda, we're going to do our committee updates. First, we would like to go ahead and get the motion to set our monthly meetings to the second Wednesday of each month. So if I could go ahead and get that motion.
This is Robin. I'll make a motion.
Okay, in a second.
It's Shannon, I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, please make your comments in chat. And of course, if you do not agree, say nay. Okay, so that was approved. Thank you. So now you have all officially been notified that the staff assembly meetings will always be in perpetuity on the second Wednesdays of each month at 10 a.m. This is a win, so I'm excited about that. Okay. So we're going to move on to the next item, activities and events update. So Kelly, if you would go ahead and unmute.
Hey guys. Okay, our committee met yesterday and I just wanted to update everyone about the date for our fall and winter general meeting. It's going to be December 9th at 10 a.m. We're also going to reserve Chesapeake in case there's anyone that will be attending in person, socially distanced, of course. To update you all on our water cooler sessions, we're going to go on ahead and have those the week following our monthly general meeting. So our next water cooler session is going to be next Wednesday at 2 p.m. I'll go on ahead and start that out in the digest again to get that going. And if anybody would like to help facilitate, please feel free to reach out to staff assembly or Ariel to let us know. Also, this is a good development as well. We were kind of trying to brainstorm on ways to support staff members. Lynn and Logan they had an idea about supporting people on Facebook. So what we want to do is for everyone that follows our Facebook page, we want to highlight a staff member. I think it's how many, do you guys remember roughly how many a month we had decided on? Anyway, regardless, we want to go on ahead and get a list of people that you guys would like to see highlighted. And if we could go on ahead and get that either emailed through staff assembly or I think a Qualtrics form, we can get started on that. But we would want to know things about people like what departments do they work for? What do they like to do outside of work? What are they interested in? What really gets people motivated, ready to go, and renewed? So if you guys have any thoughts on that or different ways to do it, different things to highlight, just reach out and let us know. We're also offering Jeremy as much support as possible, whatever he needs to help us update the Facebook page, of course. Feel free to let us know, Jeremy. And I think that's about all we have for the updates. Do you guys have any other questions about any activities or anything that you want to see proposed? Just let us know.
Will you give an update on water coolers?
Sure. It's going to be Our next water cooler is going to be August 19th. Hang on one second. I have a Word document too. I'll go on ahead and upload that into our staff assembly Teams channel. Will that work for everyone? Okay. So they're going to be the third Wednesday of the month, 2 p.m. If we need additional sessions, Ariel will know and she'll just go on ahead and let me know and I can put it in the digest. So we can have a little more flexibility with reacting to anything that comes up.
Correct. And just to follow up on that, so the staff assembly basically is going to be virtual, of course. I mean, this is not a surprise, but I think it's good to just put that out there that we are going to do virtual events. And so we're just figuring out different ways that we can stay engaged. The water coolers were a huge success. So thank you so much, Kelly, and the activities and events team. Honestly, we've gotten such good feedback. We actually had some reach outs from other universities who heard about the water cooler. So it was a great event for us to do, and we want to keep that going, especially during this time where things are ever changing. And also we just realized just employees in general, not even just staff, just need a place to sort of talk and think or just listen, or even just to like catch up with one another or, you know, find out what's kind of going on with the university. So we want to keep that going. So we know sometimes everyone's not going to be able to make our monthly meetings, and we want to make sure that we have an additional point of engagement that you all can count on. So again, thank you so much, Kelly, to the activities and events team. Just awesome work. Were there any, I had activities and events. I want to just give an opportunity for the other committees. Communications, do you have anything to update?
This is John, and no real updates as far as what we're working on, but for the rest of the senators, I want to open up the newsletter for any input. So if anybody has any topics to include in the newsletter, if you could send them to me by, let's see, August 28th, so that's 2 weeks from this Friday, so we can include it in the fall newsletter. Just contact me if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Constitution and bylaws?
We do not have any updates currently at this time.
Okay. I would say other than the bylaws change, right, for our new meeting date.
Yes, for our new meeting date.
All right. Elections and nominations. I don't think we have anything updated for that. We're actually at a good capacity. So we'll just keep an eye on if we do need to have a midterm election. But at this time, I don't think we will need to have a midterm election, but we'll see how time goes and as change. Policies and issues. Mark, are you on?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi. No, I think the notes speak for themselves. I am going to be reaching out to folks first part of this week's kind of crazy with all the move-ins and stuff, but first part of next week to set a frequency for monthly meetings, even though we may not have policies that necessarily are flagged for review. We should get together once a month and at least talk about ongoing issues that we're hearing about and things like that, and share that stuff with you. I don't want to go for 6 months and not have a meeting like we've sort of had in the past. So yeah, the meeting minutes speak for themselves. I think the biggest thing that came out of our layoff policy discussion was really an evaluation of salaries. The way the layoff policy is sort of written, as a state employee, the U levels here at William and Mary may not translate well to state salary ranges. So you may not be able to, move into a position somewhere else within the state because of that salary difference. So we need some clarification on that. And I guess I don't think I've sent this up to anyone yet. Robin, should I send that to you? Or is there somebody there you can designate to me that would receive it?
Yeah, you can send it to me and I'll forward it along.
Okay. That's about it.
Thank you so much, Mark. And I just want to give an opportunity. Jeremy is our social media coordinator, and he has just been amazing working through our social media. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, and I believe we're on Instagram too. So please be sure to follow us. But Jeremy, do you have any updates or anything you want to share at this time? Is he on? I thought he was on.
I don't think Jeremy's on.
I don't think Jeremy's on. Well, then I'm just going to shout out his praises because he's done some great work. And so big ups to Jeremy for pushing that job and doing this when we we had a job description written and he's just sort of like taken it and flown with it. So it's been great work. Robin, VP, do you have any additional notes or anything? Are you?
No, I don't have anything additional.
Okay. And I just want to check in Sonia. Any other?
Nothing here.
Okay. All right. So we are going to go ahead and move on to the town halls. I hope all of you have had an opportunity to watch them and take some time to digest the information. And also, I would just like to go ahead and open up the floor for any type of questions or any discussions that that has come about since the town halls have ended. So again, if you will just use the hand raise feature, which is by clicking participants, and then you will see hand raise, the little blue hand. I think it's blue. Just want to see if there's any points of clarity. Kelly, I see your hand.
Hey, I just wanted to know if anyone could speak in a little more detail about mask wearing expectations on campus. Are we expected to wear masks, for instance, to and from our cars, when we're coming out of the library, walking to a different building? Does anyone have like a clear feel on that?
It is my understanding that we wear them at all times. So the moment you do leave your car, you have on the mask walking to the building, of course. But yes, it is my understanding that you are in a mask at all times. Crystal, I see your hand.
So no, that we don't need to be in a mask at all times. But so the signage that went up that says, I don't know if anybody had been on campus, saw the signage that says that you need to socially distance or physically distance, I think is what they're calling it now, and wear a mask. If you are, so like for instance, the grounds people are out and about and they're working and they're mowing lawns and whatnot, they don't need to wear a mask. They're not within 6 feet of anybody. And it's also it's going to be really hard to do when they're outside in 100-degree heat mowing the lawn. If you are walking around with anybody else, most likely you're not going to be able to stay 6 feet apart. So if you're going to be within 6 feet of anyone, so when you were asking about, walking out of the library or whatever, when you're walking out of the library, most likely there are going to be people walking in. So what I've been doing since I've been on campus, the whole time, if I see anybody that is walking even remotely close to me, then I put the mask on. So if you're walking out of a building, there could be people walking into a building. But if I am driving in my truck to a location and I'm walking into ISC and I'm going to park my truck and then I'm going to walk to ISC, I don't need to have the mask on until I get to ISC, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. When I said at all times, I am thinking about like when we're, of course, around other people.
Yeah.
Get the gist of not when we're, by ourselves, obviously.
Yeah. So if you're walking to your car, see, the problem is the signage that had been put up makes it sound like everyone has to have one at all times. And we're working on getting that changed. But if you're going to be even remotely within 6 feet of anyone, yes, you need to have a mask on, if there's that possibility there.
So Jamie has a message in chat. Can you wear a face shield instead of a mask? I
No.
believe, yeah, I believe it's my understanding, even if you have a face shield, you have to have a mask. The face shield's not going to protect you.
If you have some sort of a medical issue, this has been a hot topic, and we have had, our office has to review all of the requests for all of the materials because we don't want to be giving people things that they don't need or things that they're going to use in the wrong way. You have to wear a mask. The only time I think that we're allowing faculty to wear a face shield when they're in the very front of the room, and they've even taped off the box where they have to stay, and they're going to be standing behind a plexiglass barrier, and everyone in the room is going to be, all the students are going to be wearing masks. That is probably the only time that anybody's going to be wearing a face shield. If you're interacting with anybody, you have to be wearing a mask. If you can't wear a mask for medical reasons, then you need to go to HR. As an employee, you need to go to HR, Debbie Howe. She deals with that, and she will talk you through, you know, whether we're going to make changes to your schedule or whatever HR is going to do with it. No, you cannot wear a face shield instead of a mask.
Thank you. Really quick, I want to go to Mark, and then we will go to Sonia's question, and then we will go to the questions in the chat.
Okay, yeah, just real quick. Of course, Crystal answered everything that I was going to say that we've been dealing with here, but I think it does raise a concern, especially like Crystal said, the signs are a bit misleading, making people think that you should wear a mask at all times, and whether or not you can take it off at times or whatever. Obviously, our instructions at facility were that anytime that we cannot maintain social distancing, and anytime that we enter into a building, anytime that we're riding in a vehicle with somebody else, if that has to happen, and that sort of thing. So we've been using our discretion at it. But the concern that I had, and I emailed you about this, was how complaints are being handled. And it's a growing concern for me, with, you know, possibly 3,000 some odd people adding to the population on campus. How are we going to field complaints? We get emails, blanket emails that are once again, we had a complaint that facility management is not wearing their mask and you will be held accountable. I haven't seen much instruction come down from the top on how to handle complaints, what kind of probing information you should get from somebody who's making a complaint, and how are we going to hold somebody accountable unless we know who that person was. And so I think that's something that should be addressed. I think we're probably going to look at there's a lot of people out there that just like to complain, and I'm not sure what we're going to see coming in as far as complaints. And I don't want facilities management to get a bad reputation that we're out here running around rampant with no masks on. And some understanding too. I went through about 4 masks yesterday because of the heat and the sweat, and it gets wet and you can't wear it anymore. I carry about 4 or 5 cloth masks with me every day. So there are times when, you know, I have to leave the building. I got to take the mask off. It's soaking wet, and it's almost a health hazard having the thing on anymore, and go find a new mask. So anyway, there's situations like that, and I just wanted to kind of stress my concern.
Thank you, Mark.
I was going to say, Mark, the COVID response team is coming up with a flow chart on what to do in those instances for complaints. I'm not sure when it's going to come out to everyone. I think they're finalizing it, but there is something that's going to come out that shows what you do for a student and what you do for an employee.
Thank you for circling back on that, Robin. And that was another, I will say it really quick, Robin and I have been full steam ahead since March. I swear we're on every possible committee possible or in some sort of conversation. And I'm not gonna lie, some of this is getting to a point of information overload. So So Robin and I definitely sit on the COVID response team. So of course, continue to ask those questions so we can filter them through that team, so that we can help keep at least the data and the FAQs as up to date as possible, and make sure the team and the senior administration are thinking as critically with every tool and resource at their disposal. So Sonia, go ahead.
Mark covered it.
Oh, there we go. There you go. So we're gonna get to the questions in the chat. I received a question about parking, about the single day information that was unclear. And I guess just getting an overview and trying to avoid going to the office when I'm on campus, or where are those spaces? So I will say Amy gave a really good general answer yesterday about the fact that we will have some, single day parking spots available, if I'm not mistaken. They will be labeled in different spots on campus. And I think they have converted, Bonnie, correct me if I'm wrong, they converted where the stadium is parking, that parking right there for employees to be able to park. You can unmute, Bonnie.
Hi, thank you. Yes, the stadium is now entirely faculty staff. There is a difference between single day passes. Those are the scratcher passes that Amy referred to yesterday, are an entire full day. And then there are the new visitor pay by app spaces, she also mentioned. And as a COVID measure, faculty and staff would be allowed to pay those spaces when they come on campus for their 2 hours if they need to teach class or run into the office or something. Generally, those would be only for visitors going forward after certain COVID emergency measures. If you need a single day parking pass, we actually have a Qualtrics form that I built. Those are for faculty, staff, commuter students, and anyone who only needs to be on campus on evening, all those options.
Thank you, Bonnie.
So in the chat, Jamie said single day passes can be used just like faculty staff parking pass. The hourly pass will be specific parking, and they're working on providing more hourly spaces.
So there's going to be an hourly pass. The hourly is going to be managed through the app, the phone app. That's the hourly. The passes are going to be full day passes. Jamie's pretty familiar with when we had visitor versions of these, so thank you, Jamie. But the hourly rates are going to be app only.
How much are the hourly passes per hour?
The hourly app rate is $2.50 per hour. And if Bill wants to correct me in the chat, that's fine, but $2.50 per hour, and there is a minimum 2 hour to put in your wallet. If you've ever been to DC, you know how they do parking up there. You have to put a minimum into a wallet, and then that's where the app takes it from. And yeah, the full day passes, those are actual passes that you have to make a Qualtrics form for. The hourly rate is through the app.
And so the new hourly pay by phone spaces, they're on the parking website. So you can go there to look for those spaces if you want to utilize those.
So I just got another question. If we find we would need to get a pass because we are returning to campus more permanently, will we get a full pass at the prorated rate?
Yes, so just like any other time, if you were to say be hired in the middle of the year in October, you come in and you get your permit and it is prorated because we have fixed beginning and end dates for the regular permits. If you find you need to be on campus starting in October, that is when you would sign up for your pass and it would be prorated. And that would go for November, December, January, what have you.
Thank you. So I did get another question that I did answer back to this person because they sent it privately, but I do want to go ahead and say it. So the question was, what is the probability that we will be going on or will be going on involuntary furlough or layoff? The answer to that is there is no answer to that at this time. There's just been, like the university's been saying, they're making every effort to protect all of us. And so with the new voluntary furlough policy that has come out, the strategic reassignments to make sure that we are keeping people employed and doing jobs, along with the fact that the president, the provost, and the COO are taking salary reductions. So that is all the information that we have at this time.
So I did receive a question in the chat. Is it still okay to bring back student workers when they're back on campus? There's different opinions floating around campus, and is it department discretion based on budget? So I believe student workers are coming back. I know, I'm not sure which departments will be having student workers. I'm sure that is all based on budget, so it's hard for me to answer what departments are going to have the students and what jobs they're going to be doing on campus. I believe Dr. Lee's on here. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but I do know there's student workers coming to campus. Yep, so Dr. Lee did say all hires, student employees included, have to go through the PERT process. So they'll have to be vetted through that group in order for them to have the student hires.
I think we all enjoyed the birds chirping, Robin. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have another question that just came through. Will we know employees who are temporarily reassigned? Asking because sometimes we try to contact people who suddenly disappear without notice. Will there be more general information on these reassignments soon? That I'm not particularly sure of.
I think they're still deciding on who is going to go where and what departments have the need the most to use those people. And also in the chat, if anyone did not see it, once we clear the current COVID posture, those spaces will become visitor only spaces. Kaplan Arena, School of Ed, Lot 6, and the Grad Complex overflow. Lot near MNTC will remain as a pay by hour option for all who need it, in addition to decals. And someone did bring up what app is it that we're using for the pay by phone app, and it is Passport for anyone who wants to download that app. I'm circling back. Sally had mentioned face shields information. Is that going to be posted on the William and Mary website anywhere? Crystal, do you have information on that if it's posted anywhere about face shields?
There's been a lot of going back and forth about communications and them being in line with what we need to do. So there is information on I had just found it. It's under all of the updates for the COVID-19 response team are on the website, and there was one sent out in July that has information about faculty members being able to access face shields. But I believe that there is one line in there that is not super clear that probably needs to be cleared up a little bit. But the intention is that you need to wear a cloth face mask. So I have just sent my director an email about the website, because there's our website, which is the EH&S website, and then there's the COVID response team website, and she is on that. So I've sent her a request to take a look at that.
Thank you, Crystal. I have another question that came in. Will the college close to employees after students leave in November? I don't think so, but I'm assuming if things sort of change, or if the university feels like we could go back to this work from home place, then they'll let us know. But at this time, I don't foresee that we would just not be working because the students aren't there. Are there any other additional questions?
Hi, Ariel, it's Shannon.
Mhm.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I was asked by 2 employees about the furlough and health insurance. And I know it was addressed yesterday in the town hall, but the question was, if the staff member is furloughed, whether it's voluntarily or involuntarily, and the health insurance will still have health insurance, how does premiums be paid if there is no income?
Can I call Chris for my lifeline? Please.
You're saying the employee portion, Shannon?
Yes, they were wondering if you're furloughed and you're not receiving a paycheck, then it's great that they would still maintain their health benefit, but how will that individual pay that premium? Well, I guess I've confused myself now too by asking the question, because there's an employee portion and then there's an employer portion of that. So how will those get paid?
That is, yeah.
He just said that it would be an individual check, so it would go to probably accounts receivable. Accounts receivable.
You would still bring it to HR actually in the process. It has to be logged through HR, and then HR takes
Okay.
it.
Well, and I think that the question was more if the concern was if they are not getting paid for that period, then for some people, the 2 individuals, one has a family plan, so the premium is fairly significant for the family plan. The other was an individual, and it's just them on the health insurance, which isn't quite as big a deal as someone who may have the family plan. So it's not necessarily where they were supposed to go to pay it, but rather how that was to be paid. And I said, I'm not sure. I don't know if they will. I know sometimes people that have gone into a leave without pay status are still required to pay that as well, but they have split those premiums up over certain pay periods. So I didn't know if it was going to apply the same way. You know, and if they're not, I think the other concern was if they're not getting a paycheck, then they don't necessarily have the money to pay their portion of a premium like that.
Yeah, it's a tough one because it does fall on the responsibility of the employee. I am not sure how to answer that one.
Is that something that we would have to sort of drill down into more, Robin? Like if we have to,
Mhm.
okay. We'll try to drill more down into that one. I see another question. If on voluntary furlough, are you eligible for unemployment? The short answer is it depends on how long you're furloughed for and what the government decides to do in terms of your application. My thought is to still apply for unemployment. But I think it really depends on how long you're furloughed for. That is my understanding, and that's just an understanding of people I know who went through this process back in March because their company, started furloughing, and so it just depended. It's from what I understand. The next question: could they use their vacation days to pay the premium? Thank you, Mark.
Sally, let me get clarification on that. So I believe there is already some guidance out there. So let me check something. Hold on.
And I wanted to scroll back up. Robin, did you read Bill's comment? I just want to make sure it's said out loud because I don't think you can see the chat on the. So it said, to clarify Bonnie's point about cost of parking decals, faculty and staff parking decals follow a declining prorate rate in tandem with the lapsed pay periods and have always been based on the date of purchase. This restarts This restarts every year with the September 9th pay period being the first of 24 deductions. For example, someone who delays their purchase until spring will save 8 or 9 pays worth of parking costs at their appropriate tier and so forth. Thank you for that clarification, Bill. So I got this message that says unemployment is decided by VEC completely. So that, again, that definitely goes with their determination, of course, in the details of the start and end dates. let's see. Leave cannot be used in a furlough, voluntary or involuntary. And that's by the Virginia, yeah. And VEC is Virginia Employment Commission.
And we do have a website, a webpage on HR. I'll put it in the chat that goes over some of the voluntary furlough, which it does state that in there. I just read it. You're not able to use leave. So I'll share that in the chat for everyone.
Ariel, it's Shannon again. And somehow I always wind up with these questions that are difficult. So the question was asked about the budget, and we realized, you know, I explained that the budgets, because I'm the budget person in my office, they haven't been loaded yet. And I personally have been going through trying to find additional ways in which we can save in my department and put off spending. But the question was about the furloughs and the budget and such, and the money in general. And it was said, if travel has been suspended, that I'm certain that that saves a significant amount of money across the board. So if that's the case, will we ever get any idea of what the money is being spent on? Because it was my understanding that all of the PPE and COVID related are being, the money is coming from the money that was received from the federal government.
Yeah, I know there was some money that was received specifically for COVID things. I'm not sure which part of the COVID actions that money can be spent on, if we have to spend any money on those. But I think like the travel and things like that, that's helping to make up for the things such as like the housing shortfall, things like that, students who may not be coming back on campus. So I think it is being used for some type of operations in some sort. Exactly what that is, I can't answer to that. Ariel, do you think that's correct assumption that I'm making?
Hold that thought for a second. I'm getting like all these questions. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
And I was like in the chat, sorry.
So Jeremy asked in the chat, can we use the COVID leave from the federal government to compensate as during the voluntary furlough? So you would still have to be approved for that. It would still have to fall under one of those guidelines in order to get those specific types of leave. So could you use it? There's a yes and, so you would still have to qualify for those types of leave.
Okay. I did get another question about, so if you take the furlough, do you still get holiday pay at the end of the year? I remember reading that the leave balances, if I'm not mistaken, stay, right? But as far as,
Yeah, your accruals stop
okay.
during the furlough. Yeah, all of that type of stuff does stop. So if you're, yeah.
Yeah, I just got a note that, so with the question that Shannon asked, we need to send that to Ask HR to get that answer. And holiday depends on whether you were active before or after, is the answer that I'm getting. Sorry.
So just to
holiday.
clarify, the question about the budget stuff needs to go to Ask HR? Or the previous question that I asked about the
student stuff
insurance premiums?
and that too. Yes.
Okay. So both of them.
Yes, and both of them.
Okay.
No, Dr.
No,
Lee said
I'm
no.
sorry, Dr. Lee. I apologize.
Oh, look, you say something wrong and he
I am
appears.
so sorry.
There he is.
I do apologize. I am so sorry. Right? Phone a friend.
Mhm. We need a lifeline.
Seriously. Well, true, right. I thought it was the student employment question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there
No,
might
that
not
was
be-
someone else.
Yeah,
So
I am sorry.
my budget question, we should probably forward to Path Forward.
Yeah, that's an Amy.
I thought that was an Amy question.
Okay, I can send that. I'll
Or,
direct that there. And then the insurance premium one, I will direct to Ask HR.
Yes.
Correct.
I
Okay.
apologize.
Who's on first? We got this. Well, I'll just add to this. This is my personal observation. There's so much information coming and there's so many words coming through that I think that there's so much getting lost, which is why there's so many questions about uncertainties, because I myself sometimes have difficulty trying to keep up with the information that's coming, and sometimes it's conflicting from what's in writing and what's actually said during the town hall meetings. So I can understand the issues or the feelings that people are having right now. And because of that, I am really concerned about our employee constituency that's always been a problem, where communication has been an issue. And I'm hopeful that that communication is being disseminated to those individuals who may not have the same access and such that many of us have. So it makes me just a little nervous that I hope that this information is getting to all employees.
Shannon, we have addressed that concern to make sure that everyone is getting it. We've expressed that sometimes it kind of stops at a certain point and it's not filtering down. So Ariel and I have definitely expressed that concern to executive leadership. And we've also asked that when we send out communications, if we could have it in a more bulleted format of, this is the actions we need you to take as an employee, because sometimes all that information, it's a lot, it's overload. Some of the important stuff is getting lost in the weeds. So we do understand that, but we're trying to make sure it does filter down to everyone.
I know it's all new to everyone. I mean, this whole thing is unprecedented. So we're all, trying to learn at the same time. It's just also concerning to me that when you have things like these apps that, you're supposed to check in on a daily basis. And I think the stress level for many, or for all at this point, are so high anyway, that people are so concerned about their job. They're concerned about, I feel for the parents. I'm a parent, fortunately, my child is older, so I don't have to be concerned with trying to homeschool and juggle all of that. But my heart truly feels for those parents that do. I was a single parent, so I know what it's like to try to juggle even during normal times. And to have all of this on top of that makes it that much worse. So then you have parents who feel like, you know, I had a couple of people just mention to me, it's almost like the parents that have children feel like they're being penalized. And I said, well, I don't think it's being penalized. I think that the college is trying to assist in that area, but it does feel like they're targeted maybe. So I don't know. Again, I feel like one of those emails where I have a lot of words, but I just don't know how to put it all out there. But I do feel for everyone. And I think that when you have these apps that they're required to do on a daily basis or check in on a daily basis, and if they don't do that, then they're going to get, you know, emails on top of that. It's just a lot of individual responsibility that goes into this whole process, as well as a cumulative effort from everybody on campus. And so I think people are just nervous that they're not going to do the right thing, or they're going to get in trouble, or they're going to lose their job, or, you know, even if it's just temporary loss of your position, or, you know, be reassigned somewhere where they maybe don't have as much familiarity. And so it does concern me. I know that we are truly concerned for the students across campus and their own mental health and well-being. And I know that Dr. Lee pointed out that we have EAP available to the staff and such. I think that we are headed for really stressful times.
Yeah,
And phone a friend is going to be a need, not just to get us out of a bind, but just to be a support system.
Yeah. I think one thing that we don't talk about enough, because we're trying to ask all these questions, is that, you know, this current pandemic has put us in a place where we've all lost the ability to compartmentalize, right? The idea is that we all have a physical space that we were working in, and when we leave those doors, we leave work behind us. When we get home, we deal with our home life. And now all of that is just in one space. And so it's hard to navigate what decisions to make, when to make those decisions. And the other side of it is we want to be in control of everything. And the reality is we're not in control of everything. And I know that's a lot harder said than done. And I've had even my own struggles with it, honestly. You know, I had this idea of what single motherhood would look like. Then the pandemic happened. And now me and my son are in this space, and I'm literally working on a laptop while he's on a Chromebook doing his schoolwork and trying to navigate both at the same time. The reality is, you know, I lost my ability to compartmentalize, but I did gain the ability to prioritize. And so I'm going to say at this time, think about what makes sense for you and protect your peace at all costs by any means necessary. We are headed toward a very stressful time. I think I'm at the point where I don't know, obviously, if it's going to get better or just get worse. But what I can do for myself is find my peace at any moment of the day. That includes times where I'm just like, you know what, Jason, if you're going to go watch Minecraft all day, go watch Minecraft. Because right now, I just need to like protect my peace. And I know that's not going to harm him if I just let him be on, like right now, he's back there on the Chromebook. That's why he's not doing his special moment of waving to everybody. But so that is just like my thought as we're going through this. Continue to ask the real and important questions, and at the same time, do what makes sense for you. Have these conversations with your family or even a friend, and just really think about how are you going to protect your peace during this time, and making sure that you're making the decisions that make the best sense for you. And obviously when the state starts defining how it's going to handle its state employees in terms of employment and what the budgets are going to look like, all that is going to come when they have the answers, when the university is going to have the answers to say, this is where we're at, you know, they're going to say what they have to say. But I think right now, we just need to continue to really think about how we prioritize for ourselves and protect our peace by any means necessary. And that's just my TED Talk for the day. Sonia?
And I know it's hokey, but we are all in the same boat for the most part. I have worked at William and Mary for 31 years. My father was at ODU, a state employee, for 40 years. This is unprecedented. Never in my life did, there would be years without raises, or there would be, multiple years without raises. But never in my life, through my dad's experience or my own, did I ever think somewhere in the back of my mind there would be, can I lose my job? Can I be furloughed? So it's just so completely unprecedented that we all just really need to be very forgiving of ourselves and do what we, like you said, find your peace. Even if it's just 2 minutes with your coffee in the morning, just find a place for your peace and know you are not alone. That's all.
Thank you, Sonia. And I do want to go back to the idea. I just want to say, I want to give a really big shout out to the provost. Just what she said in terms of taking time to ourselves. It was awesome to hear her say those words. I think sometimes we don't hear enough from the senior administration because they're giving us so many facts and details and trying to fill in the gaps where they can. And so I just really want to give a shout out to the provost for just being real, right? And saying you need to take your leave. You need to do what you need to do for yourself, even if it is a staycation, like Chris says. It's important that we do take care of ourselves. It's important that we honestly log off these computers. Since we're working from home, it's important that we take time to log off. So if you have to think about it, well, I have a couple of hours I can spare, take those couple of hours, put in that leave time and do that. If it means closing the laptop, and I don't know, some days I just watch soap operas. That's what I do. So, I'm kind of in that. I record them and I binge watch them as they're coming. So, just really take that time to do that. Yeah.
I'll also say, if you know anybody in student affairs, you may just want to send them a little kudos or a little word of encouragement, because it's my understanding from my morning meeting that I have with our staff every day. Yeah, Crystal, well, I think Res Life they're all in it together under the student affairs umbrella. But with Move In today, I think it's been really trying and very difficult for all of them. So I know that if they've been saying, if anyone has a hand to lend, to kind of jump in and help where there's some help needed. I know that they're under a lot of stress, and over the next couple of days, it will be extremely stressful, which something did come up this morning in our meeting, and I know it was touched on a little bit yesterday, but I think there was some confusion too today, and maybe I'm hearing this third party, but with the whole COVID testing and whether the student had received a kit, whether it had been sent back, whether the results were available. So it just, I think, makes for more uneasiness with the transition of students back to campus. I'm happy that they're there. I'm happy that they're coming, and I hope that their presence will allow us to maintain some stability with our finances this semester. So we shall see what happens with that. But just a little thought to encourage our peeps in student affairs.
Agreed. Crystal, and then I'm gonna go to the chat because I think a question came in from Lynn. So I wanna, Lynn Force, not Lynn Smith.
Just real quick on what Shannon was saying about student affairs and all that. Today I am working from home, but I go into the office Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and whenever else I need to. And my son goes to the William and Mary daycare. So I had to drive down Jamestown Road and, South Boundary and Grigsby Drive and all the way past all the OAs. So for those of you that aren't on campus, this is the biggest move-in day. I think over 600 appointments made, and the OAs are all out there screaming. They've got their signs, they're dancing, and they're wearing their masks. So life is going on, even though COVID's happening. I know a lot of people feel separated from campus, but they do seem really excited to be back. And it was just it was nice to see them. And my 3-year-old loved waving to all of them. So I just wanted to give that little warm fuzzy, if that helps make anyone feel better.
Thank you, Crystal. Lynn's question was the Calico email registration problem talked about earlier? We did not talk about that, Lynn. So if some of you have started registering for, I'm hoping everyone by this time is getting through this process, to register for the daily check, I'm sorry, what that whole app is called. If you have ever been a student or are a student, it is requiring you to use your student email address. It will not sort of let you register with your @WM email address. So I do know that question came up during the COVID response team meeting. I'm not sure what kind of headway they have had with it in terms of sort of rectifying it, but I did ask that question directly to our CIO just to let him know. And he had actually heard about the question maybe like an hour prior to our meeting. So I think IT is working to see how they can mitigate that. But as of right now, if you are a student or have ever been a student, your William and Mary email address as a student is the default before your actual employee email address. So yes, Robin. Mm-hmm.
If you have issues, you need to email support@wm.edu.
Robin, I'm sending you a question really quick because I need to send someone a registration because they couldn't find the email.
Crystal said you can also search Calico on the WM website and it'll come up to the page and you can register there also. So I think there is still confusion about the app, and if you are to check in every day, Sally, I think we need to get clarification on if we should be using it every day or if it's just, if you're not due to come back to campus for a while, do you still do that at home or not? So we received a private question. It said facilities took the COVID test 2 to 3 weeks back. 3 days ago, they received results and at least 6 were positive. That was spoken amongst people within facilities. Will the college give notice to the areas they work in or building, not the person? It was my understanding that we should be notifying people if you came into contact with that person. Yeah, they won't give you details of the person, but you should know if that was within someone you could have possibly come in contact with. I believe they should be communicating that to you. And the app is every day to complete the check. That was in the instructions from Sam Jones last week. So if you don't have the app, you can also, I believe, access it online. I'll find the link for that. If you don't want the app, you can do it from your computer also. Oh,
And
Crystal
just,
put it in the
go ahead.
chat. Thank you. Crystal put the link for the health check in the chat. Thank you, Crystal.
And that is healthcheck.wm.edu. And just to note too, I don't think I said this at the beginning of our meetings, but our meetings are typically an hour and a half. So just if you continue to attend our meetings, just giving you a heads up, because I know some people sort of book for an hour, but our meetings are an hour and a half. And of course, sometimes if we need to end early, we end early.
And someone asked if the app used the same check as the healthcheck.wm.edu. That is the same check. And Crystal said she got her results right away, so that's good to know.
And also just to be sure that everyone does the Cornerstone training. That is mandatory. So if you know that people haven't taken it, please make sure they do. And just, let people know in your offices that everyone needs to take these trainings.
Sally, when I've done the survey, it actually does my CAS ID, so I believe that's how they track who it is, if you've done it or not. I'm going to check to see if it is.
Yeah, and I want to say they definitely know whether you have or not, because if you are a person who does not do it every day or consistently, there will be notifications sent, and they will be able to identify that you haven't been doing it consistently. But this is a part of our just Healthier Together initiative and making sure that we have these shared norms, and this is a part of the shared norms.
I'm not sure, since we have quite a large number of people in here, maybe somebody would have the answer, but does anyone know or have they heard any updates about building openings? I know that there's been a few buildings that house student services, since students are on campus, that have been opened at least through this week, but I'm not certain what the future holds for those buildings. But does anybody have any insight on when all of the buildings will be unlocked now that students have returned?
Shannon, that's been a huge topic in COVID response, trying to figure out how they're going to handle some of that. Because some buildings you can swipe in and out. So it's trying to figure out which buildings can swipe in and out, which buildings cannot. Do we change those buildings, I believe, to that access? Can some buildings just stay locked and only the employees can get in? It's still, they were still discussing at the last meeting that we were in about buildings. And Crystal just said something.
Looking
Thank
at
you.
Crystal's
That's
comment,
kind
she
of
said-
I'm sorry, that's kind of the idea, you know, that the kind of the insight that I had received. It was just a little odd to me that you want the campus to come back and reopen, yet you want to limit, which I think I'm grateful in some respects for, but others I feel like it's a little bit of possibly a disservice for those areas and for the students. Because if that were the case, I think I've shared this with Ariel before and maybe a couple of others, then maybe we should have thought about, you know, the students wanting that campus experience and felt like they needed to be in their learning environment, which is totally understandable. And then wanting to be closer to their faculty members, which again is understandable. But maybe we should have gone down the avenue of, we've been conducting business since March. I know I can speak from my own office probably more efficiently than we did in person, because it has kind of taught us new ways and cost-saving ways of doing business. So maybe we should have looked at keeping our staff on a remote status and having the students and those that are essential to their maintenance on campus, you know, to be there. And I think it would have cost, you know, it would have played out to be a little cost effective as well, because it wouldn't have required that we have purchased so much PPE. It wouldn't have required that we have so many alterations that needed to be made to the way that we conduct business on campus. And I know it's neither here nor there now, because what's done is done, but in looking at the way that we are attempting to operate or open to operate and such, maybe it would have just been something to consider. And Lord knows, we hope we never have to ever go through this again. But in, you know, if we were to have to go this route in the future, it would just be something to think of, because I think that staff are obliging to come back to campus, some against their own judgment, because there is that nervousness around all of it. And particularly when you are hearing that, you know, the testing isn't going as smoothly as we thought. Of course, it's probably it's like herding cats. I mean, it's hard to get everybody in the pipeline at one time, but it does, I think, just add to that uncertainty as well. So I know our building is a very student service oriented building. And so we are open for the next, as far as I know, 3 days. And I think that, you know, we've been pushing to keep that building open, because we do have staff that are there to service those students, although we are trying to redirect and utilize, you know, Zoom and that sort of thing, the technology that we have available, to limit the amount of student contact, direct contact and interaction that we have in the office. But just so that they know we are still here for them and we are still open to do business with them if they need us.
Yeah, I think the first couple of weeks are going to be interesting to navigate. And I know some of us are sort of, you know, we try to own these kinds of things, but it's going to be a point where we're just going to have to go with the flow. and see what works and see what doesn't, and just be as much of a guidance to the students as possible, because we want to make sure that they're safe. So it'll be something to navigate, and I know all staff won't be returning, and so that'll be a definite new place to navigate as well, when everyone's not at the same place, and potentially some of us are working at different shifts. So that's another thing about us realizing that we just don't sort of own this process and we can't control everything. And so I'm going to also put out the advice to not get anxious about when you send an email or when you're trying to reach someone. We're all going to be at different places in time. And so thinking just because it's critical to you doesn't mean that you then put that anxiety on someone else. So take a deep breath and just recognize that when you email, it could be up to 24 hours, maybe even more, depending on what the person, if they're there or on leave, will respond to you. So I think this is the time to make sure that we are thinking critical about our own processes, making sure that they're efficient, and making sure that if there's places where we're collaborating, that we communicate on both sides. And just because you have this certain expectation for yourself does not mean another office is going to operate that way. And I think that's something we need to help our students with as well, in a very productive and critical and constructive way. These are, professionals or in the making. So just something to think about as well. That's part 2 of my TED Talk.
Yeah, just remember communication is going to be key at this time. So offices really have to communicate, what their hours of operation are going to look like. And if they are shifting to partly in office, partly still remote, we just have to communicate that so people know how they can reach you. And if there is going to be a lag time, you already kind of know going in when you reach that office, okay, they're working this, so they may not respond to me in this amount of time. So
yeah, we had a huge sense of urgency that sort of like struck the campus back in March and April. Let's try to help avoid that at all, because we're in this together, and we just can't be in a place of panic. We have to really think critically and really make sure we're doing the best what we have and what we need to do and get things going. But let's try to keep the anxiety down, because that's just going to stress us out more. And I don't want any of us to be stressed, or at least, reduce our stress as much as possible.
Yep, take your time, take your breaks,
Yes.
Go for a walk. I'm sitting outside in the fresh air. Do that if you need to. Do whatever it is that you need to do.
So we are coming up to the last 4 minutes of the meeting. So again, we thank you all for being here. We thank you all for sending us your questions, and continue to send those questions. I do see another question in the chat, and so we will definitely answer that in just a second. But I just want to make sure that, our communications are open. staffassembly@wm.edu. Robin and I man that email address, so all of that is confidential. So if you do have some things you want to ask and sort of bring the additional context with it, because we know there are scenarios, you can bring that to us, and we will make sure that we translate those questions to the person it needs to go to, whether it's a senior administrator or what have you. But feel free to contact us. Again, we are going to be meeting the second Wednesdays of each month at 10 a.m. It is official. So we would love to see you there, and we will see you at our next water cooler. Everything will be in the digest and on our website. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, because we up there. So I'm going to go to that last question. Oh, it was the website for the daily check-in, and I saw Crystal answered it. Thank you, Crystal, so much.
And Jamie just made a comment to remember to put away messages on emails if you won't be responding if you're away or on leave. Yes, that's extremely important. And if there's someone else to contact in your absence, include that in on those as well.
Yep. So thank you all so much. Be Be
I
safe.
know it's late, but I hope everybody
Okay.
made it through the storm unscathed. So,
Hope so.
and get your hurricane preparedness kit ready because it looks like we're gonna have an active season. I'm trying not to talk about it because, you know, I'm supposed to be getting married in October and that's not possibly gonna happen with all of this chaos in our world. But we're supposed to be getting married in the Outer Banks, so pray for no hurricanes down there too. But I hope everybody made it through safely.
Absolutely. Yay, Shannon. Yeah, we're definitely going to speak that into existence. Congrats. We definitely don't.
Congratulations.
We're going to hope no hurricanes, beautiful weather in the Outer Banks.
I'm just praying for beautiful weather and no hurricanes here. I can get married anytime. I mean, so I'm just hopeful for our community because we do not need one more thing. No more. So
No more.
if you're not a prayer, just please pray for us. I've been praying daily, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day.
Add it to my prayer list, Shannon.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and close this out. We can stick around if anyone has any questions, but John, I'm going to ask you to stop recording. But we are adjourned.